All right, you're on.
Welcome, welcome. I'm Richard McLemore, the founder of Simple Sales Coach. I'm a serial entrepreneur who owns several companies, including in focusing on coaching, training, and real estate, the three passions of my life. You were invited to this webinar and others following because you and I have had a personal experience with one another, either through work, being a friend, an associate, a customer, or perhaps in a shared organization. In the past 4 years since leaving the corporate arena, I've had plenty of time to spend on activities that me and my family like to do. We've traveled, we've eaten out extensively, we've made some new connections, and we strengthened some older existing friends in our circle. Today, we're engaged in strange times. I won't say wonderful, but definitely interesting. Our entire world has been on lockdown due to the corona pandemic. It's not shown any respect to any country or race either. I guess you and I both are in a wait and see time warp with this event. If you've had a family or friends inflicted by this terrible virus, my prayers and my heart go out to you. If you're healthy and haven't been inflicted, stay safe. And my personal advice is don't hide scared. Follow the advice of qualified medical personnel and doctors, and we'll all come out on the other side of this challenge stronger than ever. My team and I created this introduction in 3 separate webinar events. Today is designed to be my introduction. It'll be a short webinar, probably no more than 30 minutes. Tomorrow's webinar is the introduction of my team, a chance to get to know them personally and see what disciplines and skills they possess. My partner, Mark, and I have been working on this initiative for almost 4 years now. We split research duties, and if you know me personally, you know that I always want to know the answer before I ask a question. Fortunately, Mark and I both discovered that while we have competition, they're pretty much all one-trick ponies, only teaching or promoting a single acquisition strategy of obtaining real estate. Collectively, that's why we formulated and started experimenting with clients on our strategy. It's really simple. As a longtime salesperson, I've always recognized that closing is the most important single event that happens in a sales transaction. I always teach that if you don't exchange value for value, you're just wasting time, and who's got time to waste? Buyers want to buy, and sellers want to close. Am I right? While sitting around watching reruns of Batman one day, it occurred to me that closing sales simply required something like Batman's utility belt. For those of you old enough or spry enough to watch Batman reruns, you know that the utility belt held all of Batman's special tools. You know, things like the freeze grenade, the sonic devastator, the ultrasonic bat beacon, the remote claw, the EMP gun, stun pellets, and 14 other items. It carried everything Batman ever needed to fight crime. And although we're not fighting crime, I came up with the idea of how I could start using that concept to help close sales. So I started learning as many closes as possible, and I pulled them out when needed, often stacking them on top of each other. When I engaged in buying real estate, as in most selling situations, there are objections. I practiced over and over until I could not only get the objection to rest, but ask a closing question. I discovered that most objections are just veiled complaints anyway. So with that being said, if my client thought the property was too expensive, I agree with them, handled the objection, and gave them a close. If they didn't close at that time, I piggybacked another close on top of that as an alternative, and I continued stacking until we got to a yes. But I've learned throughout a career spanning 4 decades how to apply these tools. It's all about mindset. Positive mindset combined with taking massive action and then backed by knowledge is an unbeatable combination. Oh yeah, I don't win them all, but I sure win my share and I win a ton of them. I always express an inner desire to help everybody get what they want. Always. I've been taught this from an early age, that people are the most important things in life, not things. You know, because as you may have recently found out, stock fortunes come and go, oil stocks come and go, but such things as having shelter and food are going to be with us forever. That's why I like real estate. Some of you may be on this webinar because you've experienced a loss, maybe a loss of a job, certainly some of your savings if they were in stocks, or maybe it's just the stress of these events that's impacted your family personally. I'm sorry. But if you want to listen on, I'll try my best to inspire you with new hope and setting new goals. I'm not going to tell you any foolishness like quit your job. It's great to have a job in today's economy. What I am going to say is that the lessons of the past tend to always repeat themselves. It's my belief that owning real estate is the best way to face future challenges. Please send me an email with your comments or your feedback. I read every email and I will respond in like kind. Let me now move on to our presentation. And as I always say, stay inspired. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to combine a little bit of coaching along with our product introduction. So if you'll bear with me a few minutes, I'll walk you through some things that are really near and dear to my heart because it'll help everybody who's watching this webinar. You know, people often come to me, and when I was telling them about what I was going to do, I had two main objections. The first was, well, I don't really know how real estate can help me. And the second was, Richard, that takes a ton of money to buy real estate. To both of those points, I say hogwash. And this is the point of coaching that I'm going to teach you the 5 steps to accumulating wealth. And simply, they're identify your opportunities, set a 10x target, and then detail each opportunity that you list. Third is do the math. Meet with your executives and set targets, assign responsibilities, and then figure out, most importantly, what do you need? I wanted to take you through the actual items here. As I said about the first point, identify all of your cash generating opportunities. I was talking with a young guy yesterday, and he was a landscaper. And he said, well, Richard, I only make, I did really well last year. I made $130,000. And I said, great. I said, what's your goal? He said, if I could make 150 this year, that'd be wonderful. And I said, well, why aren't you thinking about making 1.3 million? And he said, oh, I could never do that. Well, that was the first point on which he did, because he was only generating it on his landscape skills. And I told him, I said, why don't you make out a list of everything that you like or you have an ability to make cash out? The screen that you're seeing in front of you now is my personal 10X plan. I engage in coaching, which leads to public speaking. And that should be events. I left a T out, pardon me for my misspelling. And they're virtual now because I used to do in-person events, but with the new virus scaring everybody, I'm sure life is going to be a much better one in that we'll be doing things virtual. I do network marketing. I'm getting ready to unveil my new podcast. I give webinars, as you can see that you're on now. I'm an office in print. I'm also setting up an agency to do marketing, because another newly acquired skill is creating funnels with ClickFunnels. I conduct corporate customer training for businesses, where I come in and I teach the business how they can be more profitable and how they can hone their operations in. E-commerce, which is the new initiative that we're unveiling in this series of webinars. Affiliate marketing, where other people will help me promote my business and I in turn will help them. And then the big one, which is real estate. Some of you may not know, but I'm a licensed agent, but I'm primarily an investor, and I'm an investor in buying, leasing, and property management. So here is my 10X, creating 10X targets for each. And as you see, they're blank. So I did the math just on the real estate. I filled out the real estate based upon what I actually did in 2019. So I had 4 sales as a licensed agent. To 10X my business, I need to set a target for 40. And out of that, making an average of 3% per sale, I could generate $480,000. Now you're going to say, well, yeah, but Richard, to go up to 10X, that takes a lot of effort. Well, that's what life's about, is effort. And as you're going to soon discover, I have a calendar that I have down to the 15-minute mark. And I have meetings and discussions every 15 minutes for 9 hours a day, often longer. Because let's say that, like on the buying of real estate, I bought 19 properties last year that I rehabbed. If I 10X it, that means I've got to do 190, which means that I could generate, just even doing $20,000 a house, which is about a third of what I actually can generate, I can still generate about $3.8 million. Now that's at a 10X plan. And I sit around with my team and I say, okay, they're saying, Richard, you're crazy. Why do you work yourself at this pace? Well, would your life change if you were able to generate $3.8 million doing what you love doing? And let's say that, things don't work out and I only do 7X. Well, would 7X of that number, which would be approximately 2.3 million, would that work? You're darn tootin' that'd work. I also had leasing of Airbnbs and lease options, where I did 23 properties last year. If I 10X that at 230, you can see I make another $500,000. So just right there, that is about $5 million that I'm able to generate within that time. Property management includes buying tax delinquent properties and delinquent tax certificates. Those are dollar amounts. If I put 30,000 in last year and I want to 10X my life, I could put in 300,000, which if I could accomplish my goals, 300,000 would be a no-brainer. And I could generate, based off of 36% guaranteed return from the government, $108,000 in my pocket. And the excess funds recovery is a business where I'm actually helping other people who had the misfortune of having their property and or land repossessed and foreclosed on. I recovered the claims for that. I've learned how to do that, and I've been certified. And as I helped that, last year I recovered about 50,000, which is really about 70,000 low, but I wanted to just put some numbers out for you. And you see that if I could 10X that business, I could make another $500,000. So the opportunities are certainly out here for you to make wealth. So what's the 4th step involved? Well, if you're a single guy and you're only running by yourself, you have to now start recruiting a team or hiring outsource people to do things for you. In my case, I have 2 other professionals that work with me, and I would assign them duties, and that's a meeting we're going to be having day after tomorrow. And I'm going to assign, and we'll talk about responsibilities. They'll be responsible for running the things that I generate revenue from. But you can see I used some fictional names, and I broke my business up, and this is how that life would be. I have one person responsible for the coaching, speaking, engagement in events and webinars. I'd have another lady with marketing engaged in podcast, agency, networking, and affiliates, and the list just goes on and on. And the last thing is I asked, what do you need? You know, who do we need in order to grow our business 10x? What will they need as far as resources? What will need to change? Because if you remain static in your business plan as Kmart, there's the famous name that's in trouble, you wither and you die. You know, you just can't, if you got to grow with the times. You know, what do we need to add? And then are there people or resources that we need to give up? The next step in all this is to find out the 6 steps to having your best year ever. And we're almost at the halfway mark. So this has never been more critical for you to achieve the wealth that you want to have. You want to also have your plan in place. And that includes first deciding what are mission critical investments that you've got to have. What do you have to invest in for your business or your personal and or business life that will have a great return on that investment? The next is you need to pull your calendar out and do some 10x daily planning. Fill your calendar. White space on the calendar is the devil's idle time. You don't want to have any idle time in a calendar. You want to really crystallize what is your why and ask that question over and over. Why do you want to sell this property? Why do you want to generate this kind of money? Why do you want to move to this new place? Why do you want to buy that type of place? Why? You want to change your surroundings. You know, one thing I always point out to people is think right now of the 5 closest friends that you have, that you hang out with on a consistent basis. Now, total their incomes. If you're hanging out with people who are all in the, let's say, $30,000 range, and you want to become a millionaire, how are you going to do that? There's not a single person in your group who can help you achieve your goals. So you have to start now seeking upward goals. I don't want to appear hard or harsh, but this is just the reality of life. You are the makeup of your 5 closest associates' income. You've got to have a jet stream pulling. You always want to be engaged in pulling that rather than in pushing. You know, some people will call this tsunami pulling. Some people call it by other names, but it's you want to always have the momentum where something is pulling you into something. I want to be pulled into events. I want to be pulled into being a speaker. I want to be pulled into networking. I don't want to push my way into that. And to me, the most important one of all these is you got to have accountability. So you need an accountability coach. Michael Jordan had one. Scottie Pippen. You know, Tom Brady. Even Jesus Christ had an accountability coach. So you need to start thinking about what to do. And here's another axiom that I always run off of. Everything is going to be involved with time and money. And if you don't pay for something, it's not going to mean anything. So those are my 6 steps to having the best year ever. So let's go ahead and move into the webinar. And I entitled this one, The Richard Way, and you're going to see why in just a moment. I was a scholarship athlete in 2 sports. And in about the 8th game that was played, we were playing Kansas State, and my best friend and I, who had been with me all of my high school career, all of my junior college career, and now here we are together in college, and I were having a beer, and we were talking about what are we going to do with our lives. We only had one full semester to go, and we had to get through this semester. Well, we both admitted how bored we were and how we wanted to really make an impact on the world. So we decided to do something really smart. We joined the military. I'm not saying we were drafted. We were so smart, we enlisted. So I was a broke soldier trying to learn how to buy real estate without losing my shirt. I really wanted to make some extra money before my discharge, so I wouldn't have to re-enlist in the military. I was in special operations, as you see by my badge down there, and I was a proud young soldier. And my desires were around my why. You know, I wanted to be able to support my wife so she wouldn't have to work, and she and I could enjoy a great life together and start a family. Well, I had struggles. I saw that I was serving two masters. I, of course, had my military duty that I had to be responsible for because I didn't want to end up in the stockade. And I was trying to learn the real estate business. Because although I had a degree from the University of Oklahoma, about finished in coaching, and that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a coach all my life. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make the kind of money that I felt that I could and should make. So as a result of that, I wasn't able to support my wife so she wouldn't have to work, and I couldn't lay a foundation for a better life. Well, I had an internal struggle also. You know, to make things worse, I felt terrible because I missed tons of great buying opportunities because I'd either be training or deployed. I felt even worse about the situation because I was unable to support my wife, and she had to continue working menial jobs just to support our family. I felt like a failure as a husband and as a provider. Then I hit the wall. The problem was that I successfully had bought a house, but I got orders to deploy 2 weeks later before I was going to have a chance to rehab it, which meant that now I'd spent all of our meager savings and couldn't spend the time to generate any immediate cash flow to make up for it. I had put my financial future at risk, and I was on the clock to get this house rehabbed or lose our family savings. Then, as if by chance, God was with us and something amazing happened. That's when, prior to becoming deployed, I met a civilian employee who owned rentals. He agreed to mentor me, and here was his version of mentoring. I got to be on the back end of a wheelbarrow, pushing sod, picking up rocks, cutting limbs, painting houses. Have you ever seen that movie Karate Kid? Well, I was an absolute Danielson of my life. But I did all that with a smile because here I have a gentleman who is experienced in real estate, willing to be my mentor. Hell, he even agreed to rehab the house and put a renter into it while I was deployed. All that, of course, if we were able to share the profits, which I readily agreed. So the big lesson I learned in that was that I learned how to increase productivity whenever I deployed a team. Then I had some immediate benefits realized. It was now crystal clear to me how to buy more properties in shorter time, when I didn't have to do all the work myself, because I saw my mentor and he taught me how to buy more houses quicker with less cash outlays. My holdings started growing exponentially. I also learned that owner financing houses was easier than I had ever imagined. That you need to learn how to buy properties using alternative creative financing methods instead. So as a result, I started creating what I called success teams, which was made up of lenders, which are also known as funders, realtors, contractors, title companies, anyone and everyone who could add value to my business. After I did that, I started to be able to buy and sell multiple houses a month. And I was starting to realize my financial dreams. Now, I'm still in the military, remember, and here I am, a second lieutenant, starting to make some substantial money. Suddenly, I was realizing 10x returns on my investment. And here was the interesting part. I was doing all this because I'd had a mentor teaching me how to do it without obtaining a single bank loan or even using my own personal credit. That's when I realized that the secret to learn how to buy real estate without losing my shirt was to reach out and create teams. So I recruited my friends. I'd pay them handsomely for their services. And most importantly, I wouldn't keep all the profits for myself. I developed immediately a lack of greed. And my plan was to start upon discharge buying houses remotely, virtually, through the networks that I had established, and to help other service veterans just like myself buy their own houses without bank loans. If you've ever been in the military, you know how precious having your own possessions is. And so everybody talks about what they want to do, but nobody has the capability or the inventiveness to be able to figure that out for themselves. And that's what I did. So I started learning how to find, research, and market outside of my geographical area for properties and land. But I didn't stop there. I started contacting people in all different states and markets to join my team and set up a business relationship with them to find and view potential properties to purchase. Remember, I was in the military, so I had wide span and a lot of friends in different states and different bases that I had met both in the field and just had access to their contacts. Well, after that, I started creating collateral as leave behind marketing, things like door hangers and post box stuffers. I created an LLC partnership with each of them, and I always tried to exert a high degree of trust and responsibility to them. But there was still a problem. And the problems were that it took a long time to find and qualify a house to purchase with these teams. What I thought was going to be easy turned into quite a challenge. Different teammates, of course, had different opinions as to what they submitted. What they thought was the perfect house wasn't so perfect from my point of view. There was a lack of discipline in conducting research for liens, tax delinquencies, and repair estimates, things that affected my pocketbook as a buyer. They'd find a property, but it was taking an average of 3 to 4 weeks per house to acquire. That was way too long. I had a finite amount of investment funds, so it was important to always buy, rehab, and quickly turn these properties that I purchased into cash flowing ventures. So I remember I got so frustrated that I just decided to systemize the process. And that's why I then got into technology. I started creating flow charts, agreements, and held weekly calls at least 3 times a week with each and every member of the team to put them back on track and to hold them accountable. I chose to call it Richard's Way. I thought that if I could create something that would make it possible to find and qualify a property every and each week, I'd be really happy. We'd all be happy because the cash would be flowing. So after 3 months of enforcing, cajoling, and encouraging each and every team member, we started working together. I'd often work up to 16 to 18-hour days communicating with them on this Richard's Way. One of the results that started coming through was I could now find and sell a house without a realtor, saving 6% commissions. running my own ads, finding buyers, finding sellers. And no matter what the price, the neighborhood, or market conditions, I could do this easy and faster than my competition. It was absolutely a no sweat deal. As my holdings grew, so did the attraction from other investors. They'd call me interested in what I was doing. I was starting to get a name among them. So then I started, and I decided to let them use Richard's way that I instructed them in. And as a result, here was my 2019 performance. I transacted, well, not 19, but until 19, I transacted over $108 million in transactions. Last year in 2019 was my most successful single year ever. I rehabbed 19 properties. I controlled 11 properties via owner financing. I bought 23 Airbnb and lease option properties combined. I made an ROI of 36% guaranteed paid by the government on my tax delinquent purchases. And of those tax delinquent purchases, I was able to successfully buy 3 of them for only $500 each. And all 3 had after repair value estimates of $90,000 each. So was Richard's Way provided? After creating it, I was not only able to pay all my bills completely, but I gained a substantial cash flow, which gave my wife and my family the lifestyle they deserved. I stopped worrying about money. I stopped spending so much time researching properties. I had a computer and I had a telephone. That's really all I need. And I was able to find and sell properties quickly and efficiently. So all in all this means that I'm now able to spend time relaxing and doing things I choose to do, either by myself or with my family. I want to thank you for spending your time, your valuable time on this. I hope that I inspired you to see what the possibilities with real estate are. The webinar we'll be giving tomorrow will talk more about the team and how we're going to how we put it together to help you succeed in this area if you choose that you want to invest in real estate. So for that, I thank you very much. You have my email, support@simplesalescoach.com. Give me a yell. I'd love to hear from you and become acquainted. Thank you so much.